by their incredible counterpunch in the Kursk region, the Ukrainians have shown once again how grievously we've underestimated them throughout this conflict, this war to expel Putin from Ukraine. And so now, by all that's holy, is the moment for us in the West to give them the permission to use the weaponry that we're already giving them. To find out more, read my column in the Daily Mail.
This is my video update on this Saturday, midday, August the 17th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Podolyak. Podolyak. He made some interesting comments about the Kursk operation. According to Podolyak, the Kursk operation is needed to convince Russia to start fair talks. That is what Podolyak is saying. The entire operation in Kursk is all about getting Russia to talk. Fair talks. To get Russia to negotiate. That is what the entire Kursk operation is all about. We just want to talk, according to Zelensky and to Podolyak. It's all about talking. If you buy that one, well, I've got an outdoor gym set to sell you if you believe that the Kursk operation is about getting Russia to the negotiating table. But that's what Podolyak is now saying. Let me read you Podolyak's tweet, his post on Twitter X. 1 second, let me open it up here. Podolyak. Here is what he posted on X. Wow, this is a long post. I'll read most of it, but not all of it. And it's in English. Conveniently enough, he posted it in English so everybody can understand what the objective in Kursk is. From Podolyak, Ukraine is not interested in occupying Russian territories. That's interesting, because just the other day, Zelensky was talking about setting up a buffer zone. Anyway, Ukraine is not interested in occupying Russian territories. This is obvious, because Ukraine is waging an exclusively defensive war, strictly within the framework of international law. But if we are talking about potential negotiations, I emphasize potential, we will have to put #RF at the table opposite on our own terms. We have absolutely no plans to beg. Please sit down to negotiate. Instead, we have proven effective means of coercion. In addition to economic and diplomatic ones, this is also a military tool. We need to inflict significant tactical defeats on #Russia. In the Kursk region, we can clearly see how the military tool is being used objectively to persuade RF to enter a fair negotiation process. Once again, to enter into a negotiation process, not the traditional Russian propaganda and capitulation blackmail. An important tool is also the influence of public opinion within Russia, which is beginning to change when the war has come deep into their territory. It is in fact that until recently, citizens of the aggressor currently generally remained indifferent to the hostilities because they took place in Ukraine. And Podolyak goes on and on and on. And that's the reason for Kursk, according to Podolyak. Deep into Russian territory, he says, very deep into Russian territory, to scare Russia into negotiations. That is what Podolyak is saying. All right, so now we know the reasons behind this operation, huh? Now we know the truth. Finally, we get the truth. It's all about getting Russia to talk. So how many excuses, how many reasons have we heard from Ukraine and the collective West to explain the Kursk operation in the past week and a half? We now have to get Russia to negotiate. So we have that. We have Humiliate Putin. The Kursk operation is all about humiliating Putin. We have that. That's 2. We have to scare Russia, to scare Russian citizens into some sort of negotiation or capitulation, to scare the citizens of Russia. That's 3. Yesterday, Ukraine, they launched missiles into a shopping center in the Kursk area. So that's another reason for the Kursk operation. To create a buffer zone. I said that already. Zelensky is going to create a buffer zone in Kursk. That's another reason for the operation. What else? Of course, to divert Russian resources away from Donbass. That's the big one, right? That one and getting Russia to negotiate. Those are the 2 big reasons for the Kursk operation. They'll say anything. They will say anything, the collective Western Ukraine, except the truth. They don't want to say that the Kursk operation was all about getting to the nuclear power plant by August 11th, and they failed. That's something they don't want to say. Because, to be honest, if they admitted to this, and now we know that the collective West or the U.S. had some sort of hand in this operation, some sort of planning, NATO, the United States, we don't know to what extent, but they knew about it. They knew about the Kursk operation, and it would be naive to think that they didn't help Ukraine strategize or provide Ukraine with intel for the operation. But you see, if they said the truth, which is that Ukraine was going to enter Russia in order to get to the Kursk power plant, the nuclear power plant, or threaten the power plant with artillery using collective West tanks and weapons, that would have looked really bad for the collective West, right? That would look really, really bad, and they can't admit that, especially now that the operation has failed. If the operation succeeded, then the collective West would have made up some excuse, like Ukraine has a right to defend itself, and it's only putting the power plant in harm's way in order to bring about a ceasefire. They'd make something up, and they would get the media to go with it. But now that it's failed, they can't come out and say, well, the goal of the operation, the purpose of it all was so that we could threaten to destroy a nuclear power plant and cause a nuclear meltdown. That they can't say now. So they're throwing out every other excuse. 2 days ago, it was to create a buffer zone. Now, Podolyak's saying we have no interest in territory. That's not what it's about. Forget the buffer zone. It's about getting Russia to talk to us. We just want them to talk to us. That's why we're doing this. We want their attention. So that's Podolyak. That is what he said yesterday. And the New York Times, they put out an article on the incursion into Kursk. The title of the New York Times article is Ukraine's incursion into Russia reveals a dramatic shift. The offensive was developed in secret, devised to divert Russian troops away from the front lines in Ukraine and seize territory to use as a bargaining chip. The New York Times article actually says that the U.S., the Pentagon and military officials in the U.S., they knew about this operation a year in advance, or they knew that Ukraine wanted to enter Russia, some operation to go into Russia. And they were planning this a year ago, but according to the New York Times, they just didn't know exactly when, the timing, when it was all going to happen. That was kept secret. Yeah, right. Yeah, I believe that. I believe the U.S. had no idea when they were going to enter Kursk. Russia knew when they were going to enter Kursk. There are a lot of people, a lot of analysts. Alexander throws this out there as well, which say that Russia knew what was happening all along. And some people are saying, some very good analysts are saying that this is a trap. This is a trap, and it seems to be working. It seems to be working because the Ukraine military is stuck in Russia now. They are stuck. They can't seem to find a way to get out, and it looks like Russia is eliminating the Ukraine military that is that is stuck inside of Russian territory. Alexander uses the word, they're rattling around in Russia. That's a really good descriptor. They're rattling around, small groups of soldiers, a lot of soldiers, but small groups of soldiers, platoons. They're in Russia. They're in forested area in the Kursk region, close to the border, about 15-kilometer area, and they're rattling around in there, and they don't know what to do or how to get out. You know, I listen to I read the ex post from Podolyak, and I don't know, something tells me that they're trying to move the narrative, move it to a point where they can somehow retreat whatever soldiers they have in Kursk and claim it was a victory. You see, we accomplished our goal. We humiliated Putin. We humiliated Russia. We scared the Russian people, and we showed Russia that we have the capabilities of entering Russian territory. And now we want talks. Now we want negotiations because the Russians can see what we can do. I can see them putting some sort of narrative like that together if they can find a way to get out of Kursk, get the soldiers out. Because we are getting some conflicting information. If there are some parts of the collective West or the Ukraine government or military that is telling Zelensky we need to get our soldiers out, we're getting conflicting reports which claim that Zelensky is telling Syrskyi double and triple down in Kursk, hold on to the territory as long as possible because we've got to make it through the elections. We got to hold territory at least until November. So anyway, back to the New York Times. The New York Times, they give all the reasons that I just outlined a couple of minutes ago as to why the Kursk operation is happening, divert Russian forces, though they admit Russian forces from Donbass have not really been diverted, but they say that's one of the reasons. They say another reason is to get Russia to talk, get Russia to the negotiating table, to humiliate Putin. They talk a lot about humiliating Putin, of course. The New York Times wants to talk that up. They're humiliating Putin. The Russian citizens are finally talking about the war. The New York Times is actually trying to say in this article, they actually go with the narrative that Russian citizens, they don't talk about the war. And so this is the first time in years that Russians are actually talking about the war. It's nonsense. Trust me, I was there. People talk about it. It's a crazy narrative that the New York Times is trying to throw out there. That now finally Russians are talking about the conflict with Ukraine. But you know, the most troubling part of this New York Times article, something that really caught my attention. Let me find it. A paragraph that really caught my attention and is actually quite alarming. Actually, it's very alarming. It points to the collective West in Ukraine shifting the military fighting from a conventional conflict, a war, to terrorist tactics. That's how I read it. I could be wrong about my interpretation of this paragraph from the New York Times, but I don't know. That's what I got out of it. Let me find it here. Let me find this paragraph because it says a lot. Let's see here. The incursion into Kursk region of Russia stands in stark contrast to Ukraine's failed counteroffensive in southern Ukraine last summer. The offensive was developed in secret, devised to divert Russian troops away from the front lines in Ukraine and seize territory to use as a bargaining chip. The operation itself will not drive Russia to the bargaining table. According to U.S. officials, Russia's President Putin has pledged not to negotiate while Ukraine occupies Russia, and American officials said he should be taken at his word. I'm still trying to find this paragraph. But in public speeches, the CIA Director Burns has spoken about the need to puncture the hubris of Mr. Putin. To puncture the hubris of Mr. Putin. That's coming from Burns. And Burns was thought of as a moderate when it comes to the conflict in Ukraine. To puncture the hubris of Mr. Putin. That's what he says this is all about. Russia will not make any concessions, he has said, and until Mr. Putin's overconfidence is challenged and Ukraine shows strength on the battlefield. Ukraine's move into Kursk is one example of how it is taking the initiative, exposing Russian weakness and embarrassing Mr. Putin. American officials say Ukraine will have to build on the operation. Here it is. Okay, listen to this paragraph. American officials say Ukraine will have to build on the operation with other daring operations that can push back against Russia's sense that its victory is inevitable. Whether that will include more cross-border incursions, secret sabotage missions, or other yet-to-be-planned operations remains to be seen. That's an alarming paragraph. That paragraph hints at something very, very bad. The collective West is planning something very bad going forward. So anyway, that's the New York Times article talking about Kursk. Putin is embarrassed, humiliated. He's so embarrassed and he's so humiliated. The Russian military is so humiliated that yesterday they destroyed 2 Patriot missile batteries. That's how humiliated they are. Patriot missiles that Ukraine does not have the luxury to lose. They've admitted as much. Zelensky has admitted that Ukraine is running out of air defense or doesn't have enough air defense. And yesterday, 2 more Patriot batteries, gone, kaput, finito. That's how humiliated and scared Russia is. They're destroying Patriot batteries. That happened yesterday, and of course, Russia's so humiliated and scared, and Putin is so humiliated that Russia continues to advance in Donbass, advance at a very quick pace across the entire front in Donbass. New York, even in the Kupiansk direction, in the Kharkov direction, in Pokrovsk, everywhere. Russia is advancing in all directions. Because it was not, the irony of all of this, the irony is that this is how dumb the Zelensky regime is and the collective West military planners, if they really did come up with this Kursk incursion idea. The irony is that they're running around saying that the purpose of this Kursk incursion was all about getting Russia to divert their military resources from Donbass to Kursk, or one of the main purposes. But what's clearly happened, and everyone recognizes that this has happened, even Ukraine has recognized that this has happened, is that Ukraine has had to divert most of its reserves, most of its military resources from the Donbass to Kursk in order to go ahead with this PR stunt. Well, this the destruction and threatening of a nuclear facility / PR stunt. Now it's a PR stunt. Now it's a pure information war PR stunt. That's what it's become now. Before, in the first days of the operation, it was all about threatening a nuclear power plant. And there were reports yesterday from Russian media. This is from Russian media, Russian sources. There were reports saying that Ukraine is planning to launch missiles into the Kursk nuclear power plant and the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. One of the two or both. Now, this is coming from Russian media, Russian intel. I don't know how accurate this is, but I've also read reports which claim that Russia knows about what's going on and they're very well prepared to defend against any missile attacks on the nuclear power plants. I've also read statements from Kiev, which claim that they're not planning anything like that. No such thing. This is what Kiev said in a statement. But that came out yesterday as well. ATACMS, that's why Zelensky wants those missiles and those ATACMS. He wants to try and launch something deep inside of Russian territory. But the U.S. actually said that they're not going to give Zelensky permission to use U.S. long-range missiles inside Russian territory, outside of what they've already approved, which is the Kharkov region. So anything outside of Kharkov, that region, the U.S. has still not given permission to Ukraine to use long-range missiles. That will include the delivery of the JASSM missiles that are either in Ukraine now or will be going to Ukraine. So no long-range missiles. For now, the Pentagon is saying no permission to use U.S. weapons, long-range missiles, inside of Russia, outside of the approved Kharkiv region. That's the policy. The policy still holds. And the US even prevented the UK from giving permission to Ukraine to use UK weapons to hit deep inside of Russian territory. The US stopped Ukraine from using UK weapons because the US knows that if Ukraine actually did use long-range missiles to strike deep inside of Russia, and it happened to succeed with one of those strikes, it would be game over for Kiev. They know it. They know it. The Putin government, they don't even see Zelensky as the president of Ukraine. They're calling the Zelensky administration a criminal regime. I mean, that's pretty much what they're saying about the Zelensky regime. So they know that if Ukraine actually did something really, really stupid, I mean, the Kursk operation is really, really stupid, but if they did something really, really dumb, like try to hit very deep inside of Russia with an ATACMS missile, and if it succeeded, then it would be very, very bad for Kiev, and the U.S. knows this. But you know, as things get desperate, and as things continue to fall apart for Project Ukraine, who knows what the Biden White House might do? After all, Biden probably doesn't care anymore. He's on his way out anyway, so who knows what the Biden family may actually decide to do, or what permission they'll give to the Zelensky regime. Look at this cover from the week. Ukraine hits back. Zelensky's risky offensive, and it has Zelensky poking the bear. A big-headed Zelensky poking a bear. Interesting cover. Canada actually gave permission, Trudeau actually gave permission to Ukraine to use Canadian weapons in the Kursk operation. Trudeau. You see what I've been saying about Trudeau? Tough guy, man. Trudeau. Tough guy, Trudeau. Big balls, Trudeau. I've got big balls. I'm going to show everybody that I've got big balls, including Olaf Scholz. Olaf, I've got such big balls that I'm going to allow my weapons to be used in the Kursk operation. Christia, where is Kursk? Big balls Trudeau, man. Tough guy, Trudeau. Yeah, Canada. Canada said to Ukraine, absolutely, use our weapons in the Kursk operation. That's not a good look for Canada, not a good look for Trudeau, but anyway, that's what his regime decided. What else? I think I'll make this video a quick one for this Saturday. How about we talk about Kim.com. Kim.com, New Zealand. They said that they have approved the extradition of Kim.com. I don't know much about this story, this case. I like Kim.com. His posts on X are spot on. And he seems like he's a brilliant entrepreneur. I know he had the mega upload, or the mega service where you could upload files. And it's no different than other cloud services from what I understand. But for some reason, the U.S. government, they decided to go after Kim.com. From what I understand, they claim that people were uploading files, illegal files, or files with copyright infringement. And for some reason, all the other platforms are not liable, but for some reason, Kim.com is. Because some of the users, a very, very small percentage of the users, this is my understanding of the case, a very small percentage of the users were actually uploading files that infringed on certain copyrights for the music industry and the movie entertainment industry. So they've been going after Kim.com, and New Zealand decided to finally extradite Kim.com from CNN. New Zealand to extradite internet mogul Kim.com to the U.S. New Zealand is set to extradite internet mogul Kim.com to the United States after the country's justice minister gave his approval on Thursday. So Kim.com, he posted on X, oops, don't worry, I have a plan. Interesting post. And then he said, I love New Zealand. I'm not leaving. That is what he posted on X. So yeah, they're going after Kim.com because of his, at least the way I see it, they're going after him because of his political views. I can't think of another reason, because his platform doesn't seem to be any different than iCloud or Dropbox or anything like that. At least that's how it looks to me. I could be wrong about this, but he has a platform where people upload stuff to the cloud, right? The cloud that Kamala Harris explained. Kamala Harris's explanation of the cloud. It's up in the air. It's up in the air, the cloud. So yeah, they're going after him because of his political views. That's how it looks to me. So let's wish Kim.com luck. He says he has a plan. I'm sure he's many steps ahead of all of these guys that are going after him. We wait and see. And let's do a clown world. And Lindsey Graham, we'll talk about Lindsey Graham in our clown world. And Lindsey Graham, he posted about the Taliban parade that took place a couple of days ago. Here's what Lindsey Graham posted. If this doesn't make you sick to your stomach, you have a problem. The Taliban represent the worst of humanity. So sad and dangerous. And this post is in reply to a Fox News article which says Taliban parades American weapons 3 years after chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Lindsey Graham. The Taliban represent the worst of humanity. Really, Lindsey? Really? Is it the Taliban that represent the worst of humanity? Are you sure about that? I don't know. Just say it. I don't know. Maybe Lindsey Graham is right. Maybe Lindsey Graham has no self-awareness. I don't know. That's probably more correct. But yeah, that's the clown world, courtesy of everyone's favorite, or least favorite, neocon, Lindsey Graham. All right, everybody, that's the video. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up a limited edition t-shirt, like the one I'm wearing today, which is an awesome t-shirt. And I will put a link for that t-shirt in the description box down below. Take care. The seashell. That's the name of this sculpture. The seashell. Nice.